Hello everyone and welcome to this brand new edition of UC Sports exclusively on UC TV. We thank you for joining us. I'm Anthony DiBernardo alongside Brandon Carney. We've got a great show ahead of us. Brandon, what do we got on the show?
Yes, we've got men's and women's basketball, men's and women's ice hockey, and we've got some baseball too. A lot in store. Stay with us.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. You look bored. You look like you need a homework break. Do you know what's going on at UConn? Do you want to be entertained? Then go to the UCTV channel 14 at youtube.com. youtube.com/the UCTV channel 14. You're welcome.
Welcome back to UC Sports. The men's hockey team had their game against UMass last weekend. Ivy Hoymoon was there, so let's see what we got.
For UC Sports is Ivy Hoymoon, where tonight I'm reporting from the XL Center in Hartford, where the UConn men's hockey team hosted their senior night against the Minutemen from Massachusetts. This was a battle for playoff seeding in the upcoming Hockey East tournament. Both teams started off the first period very aggressively. While it seemed like the Minutemen controlled the puck for longer periods of time, UConn managed to get more shots on goals through fast breaks. The first goal of the game came from Sean Pauley on a fast break to start the night. The Huskies remained aggressive to finish the first period as Pat Kirkland converted his chance from 8 feet out on an assist from Corey Ronan with just 7 minutes left in the first period, where UConn outshot UMass 13-3. In the second period, UMass showed their aggression as the game got more physical and we saw UConn begin to get a little uncomfortable. The game started getting chippy, some elbows were flying, and there was a lot of action away from the puck. Nevertheless, UConn's Trevor Gerling scored in the second period in the tightest of spaces on an assist from Spencer Nas. UConn ended the game with a third period goal from Cody Sherab. With tonight's win, the Huskies move into 9th position in the Hockey East. Stay tuned to UC Sports on updates from how the Huskies do in the conference tournament coming up in March. For UC Sports, this is Ivy Hoymoon.
For more on UConn men's hockey, we go to our UC Sports hockey analyst, David P. Stein.
Thanks, Anthony. 6,298 spectators attended the XL Center on Friday night to witness UConn's final regular season game of its inaugural season in the Hockey East Conference. Soon-to-be graduates Ryan Tyson, Trevor Gerling, Cody Sharab, Brandon Smith, and Jacob Poe and Tom Calminal were all honored during a pregame ceremony for senior night. And when the dust finally settled after 60 minutes of play, the Huskies were celebrating a 4-0 victory. Junior Sean Pauley opened the scoring in the first period, and the Huskies never looked back. Patrick Kirtland, Trevor Gerling, Cody Sharab also netted goals for the Huskies in the win. Goaltender Rob Nichols made 29 saves to record his third shutout of the season. UConn will now turn its attention to their first-round playoff opponent, the 9th-ranked New Hampshire Wildcats. The Huskies will visit the Whitmore Center this weekend to play a best-out-of-3 series. If the 10th-ranked Huskies are planning to enjoy any success in this series, they will have to forget what happened when they last played in New Hampshire, as they lost 5-1 in a far from pleasant visit. Head coach Mike Cavanaugh knows a lot is on the line, and he did acknowledge that the playoffs are a brand new season, stating that the whole slate is wiped clean now, so take our record and just wipe that clean. I actually have nothing else to say, so I'm going to turn it back to you, boys.
Thanks, David. Well, it appears that the UConn women's hockey team is also getting in on that winning environment as they advance to the Women's Hockey East semifinals after defeating Maine 1-0 in a thrilling overtime victory. Rebecca Fleming scored the lone goal for the Huskies to go along with goalie Elaine Julie's 45-save shutout. With the win, UConn clinched the quarterfinals series 2-0 and lining the Huskies for their first Hockey East Championship semifinals appearance since 2010. We wish the best of luck to the women's hockey team as they get closer to hopefully a Hockey East championship. And now, on Sunday, the UConn women's basketball team had their senior day where they honored a few seniors, so let's check that out. I'm Anthony DiBernardo reporting from Gamble Pavilion, where the UConn women's team just defeated the Memphis Tigers by a score of 87-24. It was one of the most dominant senior days in recent memory. Senior Day where we honor some of the great seniors that have played on this court the last 4 years. This year we honored Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis and Kia Stokes. The big story is Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis, who led all scorers with 21 points, hit 5 3-pointers, and joined the precedent 2,000-point club, the 8th to do it. Kia Stokes got her 300th career block, the 4th Husky to do that as well. After the game, we were able to talk to the two seniors, so let's take a look at that.
What has it been like playing with Kia for the 4 years? Sum that up.
It's been awesome to have someone who's kind of been there with you for 4 years, seeing the things that you've gone through and gone through her own tribulations. And just someone just to share it with, someone who you can be close with and know you can talk to about anything.
Kalina, great game. You had 21 points. You led all scorers. You got the 2,000 career points. Were you thinking about that going into this game?
A little bit. Our coach, Coach Ariema, told me last game that, you only need 4 points, so you better get it on senior night. So I wanted to make sure that I got that today.
Is a game like today hard to play with all the emotion before the game and the quick turnaround that you have to kind of regroup and get back out on the court?
I think you do have to, kind of maintain a certain level of focus because with all the excitement going on and all the things that, are going to happen before the game. But our coaches do a good job of making sure that we're focused, making sure that our head's in the game.
But it just shows kind of what we've been through, and I'm glad that, I did my part. I get rebounds, and she made her shot, that's her part.
300 blocks, too. Did you know you needed one, or did you know? How did you see a reaction when you got it?
Yeah, I did know that I needed one to get a 300, but I wasn't really focused on that during the game. I just wanted to make sure they didn't score. So I think, if I get a block shot, I do my job.
You get Kara Walters, Rebecca Loba, Tina Charles, all big stars and starters here. You've done this basically as a reserve coming off the bench. Does that make you a little more proud of being able to accomplish that?
I'm definitely proud of it. It's one thing that I love to do, and I think coming off the bench and doing it, it's great, but I think it just proves to everyone you don't have to start to be, a good player at Connecticut, and I think that's one thing I'm going to take away from it. Just because I didn't start, my 4 years, I can still contribute, and that's the thing that means the most.
The UConn women's team gets ready for their game on March 2nd against USF, and of course that leads to March 6th, the American Athletic Conference Championship Tournament here at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. Of course, all roads will eventually lead to that national tournament where UConn will once again be heavily favored. From Gamble Pavilion, I'm Anthony DiBernardo, and this is UC Sports. And now I'm joined at the desk by Fatmir Alikoli. Fatmir, any thoughts on Senior Day on Sunday?
Absolutely. It was a special night here at UConn. It's these types of nights that you remember because we all know as Husky fans, we've seen so much greatness for this team. They're on the verge of repeating again. But it's nights like this. Gina Oriola's 900 win. You remember these nights. I'm a senior here. I got to see this on TV, unfortunately, but seeing players like Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis being honored is just special. You remember these types of nights. I can't even imagine how glad she must feel to be part of this journey with Gina Oriema. Great night for UConn fans everywhere.
Yes, and it was a game on Saturday, not on Sunday. Kalina joined the 2,000 points club. Kia Stokes joined the 300 blocks club. They both contributed 3 national championships, so let's hope, 2 national championships. Hopefully they bring a third. Now, of course, yesterday, the UConn women's basketball team finished out their regular season in a game against USF. That game was decided by only 23 points, 83-65, but UConn finishes unbeaten in conference play for the 2nd straight season. They've got their 28th straight win, and of course, they clinched the 1 seed in the AAC tournament. Brianna Stewart had 29 points. KML contributed 18. Fatmir, this game was a lot closer than the one on Saturday against Memphis. The one against Memphis was over 50. This one only 23 points, Are you concerned with the, the better the competition, maybe the less quality of play we'll get out of the Lady Huskies?
I'm not concerned because I didn't expect USF to just give in to the UConn. No one will give in to them now. They have the target on their back right now. Everyone will give their best performance. Coach Oriema said it best. He said we needed a game like this, a game that will challenge us. They had a short lead of 17, which for Husky fans is not that much. So it was a little scary, but it shows resiliency that they're able to fight through it and still come up with a huge victory like that. The Husky fans have a lot to be proud of, even though it might not have been their prettiest win of the year.
Well, obviously, Stewie contributed 29. Morgan Tuck also contributed 18. They shot 57% from the field, so it wasn't a poor game, obviously, from UConn. Maybe they just did not give up as much points as they would have liked to. They averaged giving up 49 points a season. They gave up 65, of course, this leads to this weekend, the AAC Championship Tournament. UConn is obviously heavily favored. I'd assume you believe they will win the tournament championship and are heavily favored in the NCAA tournament as well.
No, absolutely. Nothing is indicating that they will lose this tournament. They lead in almost every major category in the AAC. Brianna Sir is another year. She's favored to win the Player of the Year. So unless a terrible upset happens, UConn fans should feel easy in this tournament.
Well, it appears that in that national tournament they will be heavily favored, probably the top 1 seed, heavily favored to win a unprecedented 10th championship. Over the last 4 years of covering the women's basketball team, Fatmir, what are some of your fondest memories of these women's basketball?
I've had so much pleasure watching these women because I came here 2011. That's when their streak was really going. And seeing 2 national championships, I believe. Yeah, it was just a pleasure seeing the men too, but the women just showed just dominance that probably will be unmatched. UConn has solidified themselves as the best women's college basketball program in history. I think that's not even close. And it was a pleasure just to be a part of it.
Well, coming up on UC Sports, we'll talk UConn baseball, so stick around. We'll be right back.
When we started talking about setting Lysistrata in the 1940s and relating it to World War II, that right off the bat, Jen and I were both very interested in propaganda images and the way that those images promoted war and patriotism and such things, and how an interesting contrast to that with the women trying to end the war. It was really interesting when we decided really soon in the process that we wanted to put Uncle Sam's image on the bank, the Acropolis, and try to find then other images that would work with that. So a big part of the process was really trying to find other propaganda images that would relate. It's a comedy, it's funny, and it's sexy, and it's about sex. And so I wanted to make the set be part of the sexiness.
Hello and welcome back to UC Sports. UConn baseball is coming off an impressive 3-game series against Kennesaw State in Georgia, taking 2 out of 3 games from the Owls. In the 2 wins, second baseman Vinny Sienna stood out, going 6 for 10 with 1 RBI. Carson Cross picked up the victory in Game 1, going 5 2/3 with 2 earned runs and 11 strikeouts. Anthony Kay got the win in Game 2, dominating with 8 shutout innings and 8 strikeouts, obtaining AAC Pitcher of the Week honors in the process. The Huskies currently sit at 4-5 on the season, and they will be back in action Friday, March 6th in Miami against Florida International. Going to switch gears a little bit here to men's basketball. I'm joined now by Chris Brennan. He was at the SMU game. UConn coming off a huge win against SMU, only win over a ranked team all season. What were your biggest takeaways from that game?
Well, that was just the best game totally for the Huskies all season long. Everything that could go right did go right. First of all, we come a little too accustomed to this, but Ryan Boatwright played another great game, 23 points and 5 assists. And then he also got that Robin to his Batman. He got Rodney Purvis to come out and score 28 points. He only came into that game averaging about 9.8 points per game, but he really came out of his shell, gave him that second score. And then Daniel Hamilton was the closer down the stretch, also played a big role in that game, scored 12 of his last 16 points late in the second half. And then just even to pile on top of that, Amita Brymus had a foul trouble. He ended up fouling out, but he was able to stay on the floor for 34 minutes, which is a very high mark for him. And then on top of all that, their defense really played well. They held the best player in the conference so far this year, Nick Moore, to 3 of 13 shooting. And when all of those things go right and you're playing at home, it's going to be tough to lose.
Right. You mentioned Rodney Purvis there. Huge game, 28 points. Like you said, Boatwright's been searching for a consistent scorer alongside him all year. Do you think he can keep this up?
Well, I think it's definitely encouraging that it came against SMU. And, I mean, you want to be playing your best basketball come March. But Purvis, this was the first game where we've seen him play a complete 40 minutes. So I think this game is a big game coming up because it's going to be a packed house for senior night against Memphis, their last game in Gamble, and they're coming off their best win. So they have a lot of things going for them. The team can't afford to take a step backwards. So if Purvis is going to step up, I think this is going to be where he has to go forward and not look back And even if he doesn't, Daniel Hamilton is also taking some strides as well. As long as there's that second scorer, though, the Huskies should be pretty good rolling it on this season.
Right. Now, looking ahead, you mentioned they've played much better lately, looking a lot more organized. Now, the AAC tournament's going to be at the XL Center. How do you see that playing out, and do you see UConn potentially squeaking into the NCAA tournament?
Well, I mean, I was at the game on Sunday against SMU, and that was the loudest environment I've ever seen at a game in Hartford. It was palpable. You could feel it from the arena. It almost felt like a game at Gampel Pavilion, and that is not going to hurt you. Come tournament time, we saw last year with Memphis, the Huskies were able to steal one away from Memphis down there in the AAC tournament. But this time, they're going to have to take it away from the defending national champions. And I know the Husky faithful and the Huskies are not going to give up that belt too easily. So I think that the home court advantage, and we'll see how Purvis and Hamilton play this week, but if they take another step forward and we got that home court advantage, I think it's going to be very tough to knock off the Huskies, and then they could be playing come tournament time.
All right, you got to hope for a good showing coming up. For Chris Brennan, we'll be right back with UC Sports.
Welcome back to UC Sports. Well, that wraps up this show. Make sure to go to YouTube and subscribe at UCTV Channel 14, where you can watch all of the shows in past tense, watch them over and over again.
You can look at us.
Yeah, you can look at us. Well, at least I'm good looking. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at UCTV Channel 14 for live game updates for all UConn sports. Brandon, anything left to say?
No, nothing. Just you are much better looking than I.
Right you are, Brandon. Well, for all of us here at UC Sports, we'll see you guys next week. Good night.